You don't expect 18 years of marriage to end because of a fitness app. You expect signs. You expect distance, arguments, or the slow fade that everyone talks about in marriage counseling books. But when I discovered my wife was planning to leave me, it happened because I was scrolling through Strava one Saturday morning and noticed that her morning runs kept starting at the same address. I was sitting on the back deck with coffee, checking my own workout stats from the previous week. My wife and I both use Strava. It's a fitness tracking app where you log your runs, rides, and workouts, and it shows your route on a map with GPS data. We follow each other on the app. It was supposed to be motivational, a way to encourage each other to stay active. We're both in our mid-40s. We're both health conscious. We both run 3 or 4 times a week. I own a commercial HVAC company in suburban Columbus, Ohio. 3 trucks, 9 employees, 23 years in business. I make about $95,000 a year after expenses. My wife is a vice president of commercial lending at a regional bank. She approves business loans, handles commercial mortgages, and manages a portfolio of small business clients across central Ohio. She makes between $135,000 and $155,000 a year, depending on her loan performance. She drives a leased Audi A5. She wears tailored suits from Nordstrom and gets her hair colored every 6 weeks at a salon that charges $250. She goes to banking conferences and leadership seminars and comes home talking about portfolio optimization and risk mitigation strategies. For the first 13 years, we worked. I was the practical one. She was the ambitious one. I kept the house running and the business stable. She climbed the corporate ladder and handled our financial planning. But around year 14, something shifted. She started making comments about how I was playing it safe with the business, how I should be expanding instead of staying comfortable. She started talking about her clients like they were more interesting than I was. The entrepreneur who opened a chain of fitness studios, the woman who ran a boutique hotel downtown, the man who started a craft brewery with investors from out of state. She was building a fantasy world in her mind, a world populated by risk takers, and I was the guy who showed up in a work truck with an HVAC logo on the door. I was scrolling through her Strava feed that Saturday morning in March, not because I was suspicious, but because I was bored. I noticed something odd. Her recent runs weren't starting from our house anymore. They were starting from somewhere else, an address in the Short North. The Short North is a trendy neighborhood about 4 miles from our house. Brick streets, art galleries, expensive restaurants, loft apartments. I clicked on her most recent run, March 15th, 2025, 5:30 a.m., 4.2 miles. Started close to our place, ended at another address, almost in the same neighborhood, a loop through the neighborhood. I clicked on the run before that, March 12th, 5:30 a.m., 3.9 miles. I scrolled back through her activity history. The pattern was clear. She still ran from our house twice a week, usually on weekends when I was home, but 3 mornings a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, her run started here at home. She was driving somewhere at 5:30 in the morning, parking and running from there. Why would she drive to the Short North to run when we live in a neighborhood with perfectly good sidewalks? I opened Google Maps on my phone. I typed in the address in Columbus, Ohio. It was a 4-story brick building with ground floor retail and residential lofts above. Street view showed a coffee shop on the corner and a boutique next door. The building had large industrial windows and a trendy aesthetic. I zoomed out on the map. 1 block away, there was a business with a familiar name. I stared at the name. I had heard that name before. About 18 months ago, my wife came home excited about a loan she had just approved. She said it was for a up-and-coming business in the Short North. She said the owner was innovative and passionate about his vision. She said he was renovating a historic building and installing custom equipment. She said it was exactly the kind of project that makes banking exciting. I Googled the company in Columbus, Ohio. The website loaded. It was sleek, modern, with photos of exposed brick, Edison bulbs, and custom equipment. There was an About section. I clicked it. The owner's bio was at the top of the page. I read his name. Then I Googled his name, plus the street address. A real estate article from 2 years ago popped up. Local entrepreneur purchases historic loft in Short North. The article had a photo of him standing in front of the same brick building. The article mentioned he was living in one of the units while renovating the ground floor for his business. My wife was driving to his apartment 3 times a week at 5:30 in the morning. I sat there on the deck, staring at my phone. It was 9:15 a.m. on Saturday, March 16th. I had just discovered my wife was having an affair, and I had no idea what to do next. I decided to wait. I didn't confront her that day. I needed evidence first. Sunday morning, March 17th, she got up at 5 a.m. She said she was going running. She grabbed her keys and left. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I grabbed her iPad from the kitchen counter. She kept it plugged in next to the coffee maker. She never logged out of her iCloud account. I opened the Messages app. It synced with her phone. I scrolled through her conversations. There were hundreds of text messages between her and him. I didn't read them all, but I read enough. I can't wait to see you tomorrow morning. You make me feel alive. I haven't felt this way in years. I think I'm falling in love with you. The messages went back to October 2024. 5 months of texts, 5 months of lies. I took screenshots of everything. Then I closed the Messages app and opened her banking app. She had it set to remember her login. I scrolled through her transaction history. I found a payment I was not entirely familiar with. March 1st, 2025, $1,200, wire transfer. The recipient name was his business. The memo line said, equipment contribution. She had sent him money, not a small amount, $1,200 from our joint checking account to fund his business, the same business she had approved a $350,000 bank loan for. I took a screenshot. I put the iPad back on the charging stand. I went upstairs and got dressed. I spent the rest of Sunday gathering evidence. I logged into our credit card accounts. I printed statements going back 6 months. I found a bunch of charges for his company. $67 on January 18th, $82 on February 3rd, $93 on March 8th. I found charges at restaurants in the Short North, an Italian place called Marcella's, $145 on January 24th, a wine bar called The Bottle Shop, $98 on February 14th, Valentine's Day, a coffee shop called Roosevelt Coffee House, $28 on March 10th. All of these charges were on her personal credit card. I was an authorized user on the account, so I had access to the statements. All charges in the last 4 months, all within walking distance of her supposed running spot. I printed everything. Then I called my attorney first thing Monday morning. I told him everything. He told me to document it all, keep the screenshots, keep the printed statements, keep the Strava routes. He told me this was more than an affair. He told me she had given money to a borrower whose loan she had approved. He told me that was a violation of banking ethics. He told me the bank could terminate her if they found out. He told me to prepare to file for divorce. I spent Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday organizing the evidence. I created a timeline. I put together a folder with everything documented and labeled. That night, March 21st, she came home late. She said she had been at a networking event. She smelled like beer. I asked her where the event was. She said downtown. I asked her which venue. She hesitated. She said she couldn't remember the name. I told her to stop lying. I told her I knew about the business owner. I told her I saw the Strava routes. I told her I saw the wire transfer. I told her I read the text messages. Her face went blank, like she couldn't comprehend what I was saying, but she didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She got angry. She told me I had violated her privacy by going through her iPad. She told me the Strava routes didn't prove anything. She told me the wire transfer was a business investment. I asked her if the bank knew she was investing in a client's business. She didn't answer. I asked her if the bank knew she was sleeping with a client whose loan she approved. She told me it wasn't like that. I asked her, what the hell was it like then? She said they didn't start seeing each other until months after the loan was finalized. She said the loan was approved in September 2023. She said they didn't connect personally until October 2024. She said 13 months had passed between the loan approval and the beginning of their relationship. She said that meant there was no conflict of interest. I asked her about the $1,200. She said she was helping him because his business was struggling. She said his company opened in January 2025 and cash flow was slower than projected. She said he needed money for equipment repairs. She said she was supporting a local business. I told her she was supporting her boyfriend with marital funds. She told me I was twisting everything. She told me she had been unhappy for years. She told me I was emotionally unavailable and had no vision. She told me she was suffocating in a marriage to a man who was satisfied with mediocrity. She told me she was planning to leave me. She told me she was going to move in with him. She told me she had already talked to an attorney about divorce. I asked her when she was planning to tell me. She said soon. I told her I was filing first. Then she stopped what she was doing and started packing. 20 minutes later, she came out of the bedroom with 2 suitcases. She said she was staying with a friend. I didn't stop her. She walked out the front door. I filed for divorce the next morning, Friday, March 22nd. My attorney also drafted a formal letter to the bank's compliance department. The letter outlined the relationship between my wife and the business owner. The letter included a timeline showing when the loan was approved and when the affair began. The letter included evidence of the $1,200 wire transfer to his business. The letter noted that this payment suggested a financial interest in the borrower's success, which violated the bank's code of ethics. The bank received the letter on Monday, March 25th. 2 weeks later, on April 8th, my wife was placed on administrative leave. The bank had launched an internal investigation. She stayed with her friend for those 2 weeks. Then the friend told her she needed to find somewhere else to stay. That's when she moved in with him. She moved into the loft at the business on April 15th. I didn't hear from her during that time, but I knew what was happening because I still followed her on Strava. She didn't think to unfriend me. She didn't realize that Strava shows the exact start and end addresses of your routes to your followers. Most people think it just shows a general area on a map. She got sloppy. Her runs now started and ended at the same place every single day. 6 weeks after she moved in, I got an email from her. It was late May. Subject, update. The email was short. It said the bank had completed their investigation. It said her employment had been terminated for cause. It said she had violated the bank's code of ethics by providing financial assistance to a borrower. It said she was not eligible for severance or unemployment benefits. It said she had signed an NDA and could not discuss the circumstances of her termination. She didn't ask for anything. She was just letting me know. I didn't reply. Her income stopped. The business owner's business was already struggling. He had opened in January, right before the slow season for his business in Ohio. Revenue was below projections. He was burning through his operating capital faster than expected, and now he had a girlfriend with no income living in his apartment. They were living in a 2,000 $400 a month loft with a failing business and no prospects, and they started fighting. I didn't have to hear about it directly. Word travels in a small business community. One of my clients mentioned he had been at the owner's business on a Friday night and overheard the owner arguing with someone upstairs. Another client said she had seen my ex-wife at Target looking rough. A mutual acquaintance who lived in the same building mentioned to someone that you could hear shouting through the walls late at night. Then in early June, my wife sent me another email. Subject: financial access. The email was long. It was rambling. It talked about temporary hardship and needing support during the transition. She asked for access to joint funds to cover her expenses. I forwarded the email to my attorney. He responded on my behalf. The response noted that she had transferred $1,200 from marital funds to a third party without my knowledge or consent. The response noted that any request for financial support needed to go through the court as part of the divorce proceedings. She didn't reply. 2 weeks later, on June 18th, she called me. She was crying. She said she had made a mistake. She said the affair partner had asked her to move out. She said he told her he needed space. She said he couldn't handle the stress anymore. She said she didn't know where to go. I asked her where she was calling from. She said she was in her car. I asked her where her car was. She said she was parked outside our house. I told her she couldn't come in. She said she had nowhere else to go. She said her friend wouldn't take her back. She said her parents were retired in Arizona and she didn't want to burden them. She said her sister lived in Seattle and they were not close. I told her that wasn't my problem. She asked if we could talk. I told her we had nothing to talk about. She said she wanted to explore reconciliation. I told her the truth. I told her I didn't want her back. I told her she had lied to me for 6 months. I told her she had destroyed 18 years for a man she barely knew. I told her she had humiliated me, betrayed me, and ruined her own career in the process. I told her I was done. She sat in her car in the driveway for over an hour. Then she drove away. The divorce was finalized in October. I kept the house. I kept my business. I kept my retirement accounts. She got her share of the equity, about $52,000 after legal fees, in her car. She moved to Cleveland. She's working as a loan processor at a credit union, not a vice president, not approving six-figure business loans, processing paperwork for car loans and home equity lines. She makes about $58,000 a year. She lives in a one-bedroom apartment in Lakewood. She drives a 4-year-old Ford Expedition. No more Audi, no more Nordstrom suits, no more $250 salon visits. Her affair partner's business closed in November 2025. The owner filed for bankruptcy. The bank seized most of his equipment and sold it at auction to recover part of the defaulted loan. He moved back to Michigan. Last I heard, he's working for a restaurant supply company, and the two of them, they're not together. They lasted 8 weeks living under the same roof before it imploded. He didn't kick her out because he couldn't handle her anxiety. He kicked her out because he couldn't afford her. She had no income. His business was dying. She had become a financial liability he couldn't carry. As for me, I'm fine. I hired 2 more technicians this year. Business is good. I bought a new truck. I'm still running 3 or 4 times a week. I still use Strava, but I unfollowed my ex-wife. I started dating someone, a woman I met through a mutual friend. She's a physical therapist. She's practical, she's funny, and she doesn't care that I don't own a trendy brewery. She likes that I show up. She likes that I'm consistent. She likes that I built something solid instead of chasing something shiny. My ex-wife wanted excitement. She wanted passion. She wanted someone who made her feel like she was living in a movie, and she got it for about 2 months. And then the movie ended, and she was left sitting in the wreckage of her own choices. She destroyed a marriage, all for a man who kicked her out the moment his business started failing. Some people would call that karma. I call it consequences. She gambled everything on a fantasy. I invested in reality. And when the dust settled, I still had a foundation to stand on. She had nothing but a termination letter and a credit union job processing car loans. There's a lesson here for anyone who thinks they're missing out. Before you burn down your life for something new, ask yourself one question. Are you running towards something real, or are you just running away from something hard? Because excitement fades, passion cools, and when you're left standing in an empty apartment with no job, no money, and no plan, you're going to realize that boring and stable wasn't weaknesses. They were strengths. My ex-wife learned that the hard way, and I learned that sometimes the best revenge is just letting someone's bad decisions run their course. She wanted freedom. She got it, and it cost her everything. But now when I finish a run, I end where I started, at home, where I belong, and that's exactly where I want to be.